Just let me know if you can see that.
Yep. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Happy to our webinar informational session for our request for proposals for our program administrator for our two farmer grant funds, the socially and economically disadvantaged competitive grant program and the Beginning Farmers competitive grant program. This solicitation is for an administrator to administer either one of those programs on a statewide basis. I think we'll start out just with some introductions. My name is Emily Cook. I'm the team lead for business development here at Ag and Markets. And I am joined by my colleagues, Stephanie Wojtowicz and Mary Clark Smith. And then we're also joined with some of our staff from our fiscal unit, John Ross and Kate Tazi, and Sarah Hall from our counsel's office. So we'll be going through the background and purpose of the grant programs, eligibility criteria, the scope of services administrators will need to provide, the available funding, eligibility criteria for the farmer grants, definitions. We'll also be covering what the eligible farmer projects, the actual grants that the administrator will be giving out, what is eligible for those projects, and the technical information about how to apply to be a recruiter for these opportunities. A little housekeeping before we begin. This presentation will be recorded and posted to our funding opportunity website on the Ag and Markets website. All participants are muted, and we ask that you place questions in the chat and we will address them at the end of the webinar. Funding for this program has been allocated in the budget and enacted aid to our localities budget, and it will maintain two separate programs for grants to farmers: the Beginning Farmer Grant Program and the Socially and Economically Disadvantaged Farmer Grant Program. These are two separate opportunities with different requests for proposals that people wanting to be the administrator of these programs will apply for. We are seeking proposals from organizations wanting to administer these programs on a statewide basis. And now I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie to go through the program administrator proposal.
Great, thank you, and hi everybody. Again, my name is Stephanie Wojtowicz, and this section we're going to go over the program administrator proposal. We'll go over eligibility, some funding amounts, the scope of services, and the technical proposal. So to be eligible for this opportunity as a program, entities need to be one of the following entities. So a municipality, a public benefit corporation, a local development corporation, or a nonprofit organization. So as a program administrator, you may choose to partner with another organization, and we will accept proposals that do identify partners. And those partners can help you with the financial assistance portion of being an administrator. So that means monitoring and ensuring that grant funds are properly distributed. But just note that the lead partner must be an eligible entity, as I described in the last slide, and that that eligible entity will be considered the program administrator itself. So for both opportunities, there are $2 million available. So $2 million for the Beginning Farmer Grant Program and $2 million for the Socially and Economically Disadvantaged Farmer Grant Program. But just note that a maximum of 15% or $300,000 is available to administer the grant program. So those are for your services and expenses to administer the program. And a minimum of $1.7 million has to be made available to grants for farmers. So that's something to keep in mind. So now I'll go over the scope of services. As Emily mentioned, the goal of this opportunity is to find a program administrator to manage and oversee these two competitive grant programs. So with the department, the program administrator will develop a request for proposals for farmer grants. And Mary, later on in the presentation, will be going over some of those details about the farmer grants. But that approved RFP has to include a system and a structure for awarding grants using multiple funding tracks or tiers. And one of those tiers or tracks need to be focused on smaller or less complex projects. We really want to ensure that we're reaching a wide range of farmers, both in scope and scale, and we want to make sure that we have opportunities for those smaller producers. The RFP farmer grant should also have a match requirement, but that match requirement cannot exceed 5% of the grant award. So again, we're trying to reach those beginning and economically farmers, and we want to ensure that the match amount is reasonable and attainable. As the program administrator, you'll need to make sure that there is a statewide distribution of funds. So that means the RFP needs to be open to the entire state and to the best of your ability through the scoring of projects and proposals that come in from farmers. Those awarded applicants should represent producers throughout the state so as not to have a cluster in one area of the state. We want to make sure that we have a wide distribution. And then program administrators are also responsible for monitoring each awardee. And that means monitoring the performance of the awardee and the project itself, making sure that it's being completed within all of the requirements of the program, but also the expenditures, making sure that all the funds are being appropriately spent within the terms of the program requirements and of the RFP. So that's important to keep in mind as well. So we really suggest that you look at the request for proposals for these program administrators to look for that complete scope of services that's identified in the RFP. So I'll go over now the technical proposal, which is part of the entire submission for this opportunity. And there are 4 categories under the technical proposal that will be scored. So when developing your proposal, it would be helpful if you lay out your proposal in this way and under these categories, which will help the technical team assess and score your proposal. So the first category is experience and personnel, and this category is worth 20 points. So this is where you'll describe your experience, the experience of the team that you're bringing with you and any partners, and really show how you have knowledge, understanding, familiarity with running grant programs and how you work with farmers. You should also describe if you've managed comparable grant programs in the past and your experience doing so, and both comparable in this scale and scope of this grant program. You should also highlight the strengths of your team and your partners. This is really where you want this is the opportunity to show how your team will shine in administering a grant program. Identify if your key partners will receive compensation as a subcontractor and the role that they'll play in administering the program with you. So the next section of the technical proposal is the proposed work plan, and this is worth 45 points, which is a significant percentage of the technical score. So in this section, we want you to provide a detailed work program or work plan, and you should identify and describe the services that you and your partners are going to provide and explain how you will provide those services. So in that plan, you should identify how the program will be promoted. How will farmers hear about the program? How will they apply to the program and submit an application? How will the request for proposals process be conducted? How will the RFP be developed? How will it be reviewed? How will projects be reviewed, scored, and who will review the actual applications when they come in? We also want you to think about reporting requirements and other protocols that you'll establish to ensure the appropriate and effective use. That's an important thing to keep in mind. And then if you're working with partners, provide a clear and concise plan for how you'll collaborate and engage with partners. We really want to ensure a high level of participation in this program statewide. So how will your partners help you achieve that? In the previous section is where you're talking about the strengths of your team and who you're working with. This section is how you will work together in order to implement the program. And then the last bullet is important too. So please provide a timeline that has dates, a list of tasks, and then overall outcomes that will describe how and when the work will be completed, who will complete the task. And then this is important too, a metric to gauge success and how you're completing those tasks. So we're really looking for the what, the when, the who, and the how of how you're going to succeed in the program and administering the program. The third category is your ability to reach the eligible population of the eligible grant applications. I think I read that wrong. The ability to reach the target population. So describe your experience in providing services to farmers. How have you connected to farmers? What type of services have you provided? And then also, what's your history in collaborating with other groups and organizations that have provided services? So other groups that have provided technical services to farmers. And how have those relationships work, and how will those relationships support you in this effort? So this category is worth 10 points. And then the final category in the technical proposal is your ability to provide that financial assistance, including the capital assistance. So again, you'll be responsible for ensuring that funding and capital are spent efficiently and effectively and within the scope of these programs. So we really want you to describe your experience and how you can provide that service, and you can provide that financial assistance to the farmers, and or how your proposed partners will help you in that as well. And again, as I mentioned before, please always go back to this particular request for proposal, both the beginning farmer proposal and the socially and economically disadvantaged proposal, to see all of the complete instructions and all of the scoring criteria. So then, of course, there is always a cost evaluation, and this is worth 20 points. So the cost evaluation is reviewed separately and independently from technical proposal. They're reviewed separately. So one thing to keep in mind is please use the bid form that is in the submission documents packet online. I believe it's an Excel spreadsheet, but please do not alter it in any way. Please use the structure that is set forth in that Excel spreadsheet. But on this form, we want you to describe and attribute all the costs that you lay out and align them with the activities that you're describing in your technical proposals. We want to make sure that the costs and the activities align with each other. And then also remember that your total costs should include all direct, indirect, and any incidental expenses as well. Just to note, the proposal that uses the least amount of administrative funds, and remember that's 15% or $300,000 as a maximum that can be proposed. And the proposal that puts forth the least amount of administrative funds will receive the maximum 20 points. And then the remaining proposals will be scored using a weighted score using the formula that's listed here. So that basically covers the program administrator requirements of the solicitation. Again, go back to the RFP that always has all of the direct information that you need. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mary, and she's going to talk about some of the farmer grant requirements as part of this program.
Thank you, Stephanie. In the next few slides, I will cover farmer grant eligibility, definitions, eligible projects. To be eligible for a beginning farmer grant, a farmer must be considered a beginning farmer, which we have defined here as farmers who have not operated a farm for more than 10 years, and who will materially and substantially participate in operating a farm within a region of the state, which may include urban farms. To be eligible for a socially and economically disadvantaged farmer grant, a farmer must meet the definition of being both socially and economically disadvantaged. Socially disadvantaged is defined as individuals who have been subject to discrimination by virtue of their membership in a particular group, which may include Black or African American, American Indian or Alaska Native, Hispanic or Latino, and Asian or Pacific Islander. And economically disadvantaged, defined as socially disadvantaged individuals whose ability to enter into farming or whose farm enterprise has been impaired due to diminished capital, credit opportunities, or access to land, among other things, as compared to other similarly situated individuals who are not socially disadvantaged. Eligible farmer projects may include startup, improvement, or expansion costs associated with a farm business, worker or apprenticeship training, marketing activities, purchases of agricultural land and physical structures, purchase of machinery, equipment, or livestock, and construction or improvement of physical structures, including semi-permanent structures. Projects may be conducted on leased land, and the maximum award available is $250,000, and the minimum award available is $5,000 per beneficiary. We've included some frequently asked questions here. Stephanie, would you mind reading me?
I can. So question 1, is the administrator for this program expected to serve all of New York State or a specific geographic territory, such as a county or an economic or an ESD, economic, I think it's the wrong acronym. It's an REDC region, I think that's supposed to say, a Regional Economic Development Council region.
Well, the short answer, the selected administrator is expected to serve all of New York State.
Yeah, we want a wide scope. How many awards does New York State anticipate making, one single award or multiple awards?
The department will select only one administrator under each RFP.
Right, one for beginning farmer and one for the beginning and socially and economically disadvantaged farmer. And then are counties considered a municipality and eligible for this contract?
Yes, counties are considered a municipality for purposes of this RFP. So in the next slide we'll continue on how to submit questions. So questions must be received by 3 p.m. on Friday, November 29th. Please submit your questions in writing via email to John Ross or Kate Causey at procurement.info@agriculture.ny.gov with the name of the grant program and the RFP number and name in the subject line. For example, Beginning Farmer RFP 0321, Program Administrator for the Beginning Farmers Competitive Grant Program. All answers to questions will be posted by or before Friday, December 6th. When submitting your proposal package, please submit 6 separately labeled and sealed envelopes. Envelopes should be labeled minimum qualifications and forms and assurances, technical proposal, bid form, cost proposal, minority and women-owned business enterprise, MWBE, equal employment opportunity, EEO documents, service disabled veteran-owned business, SDVOB forms, and optional forms. You can find more information in section 5 of the RFP titled Proposal Content and Requirements. All proposals are due by 3 p.m. on Tuesday, December 17th. Proposals may be mailed or hand-delivered in one sealed envelope or a package to New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, Division of Fiscal Management, 10B Airline Drive, Albany, New York, 12235. Attention, John Ross or Kate Tozzi, with the appropriate RFP number. Please refer to the RFP for complete instructions. And that finishes the section on farmer grants and how to apply.
Oh, and there's my. So that covers our presentation, and I think we can open it up for questions. If there are any, please feel free to put them right in the chat. Let's see. You guys have the chat?
Yeah, I don't see any questions. I've also put a link to our funding opportunities page in the chat where you can download a PDF of the RFPs.
It looks like for some reason the chat box is just going to me. So there is a question here. So I'll just read it out loud. This is from Nick. I run the Jamestown Farmers Market and was hoping that I could apply for funding to create opportunity for farmers around the area and those who participate in the market to help them expand and grow. Does this fit into statewide administration? Or would this not be eligible for this group of grants?
The opportunity is to administer a program on a statewide basis. So you could not just offer the opportunity to farmers in your local area. You'd have to offer it to any farmer in New York State. And the scope of eligible activities and expenses that farmers can apply for is fairly broad, as we went over, from purchasing land to livestock equipment, developing, the operational expenses. So you would need to offer the same range of eligible activities and expenses if you were to become the administrator in your solicitation to those farmers. So you couldn't just specify it for specific activities.
Nick says thank you. And we have a question from Eileen. Is there a start date that should be used when developing the timeline?
As anyone who has worked with the state before knows, it can be a lengthy process. So I think we want to suggest using a generalized timeline with either month and year, or like doing things by a quarter. I think if you wanted to use a date, I would say you could probably start in this coming spring, summer. And then, as we make awards and get down into contracting, we can kind of revise those dates a little bit.
Thank you. And then another question, any further guidance on the MWBE requirements? I don't think there's any additional guidance than what is in the request for proposals. So there should be a section at the back of the request for proposals that lays out the MWBE requirements. So I would take a look at that section of the documents that are included in that submission packet and everything that's online. There's nothing outside of the RFP documentation that we would have. I don't see any other questions coming through. We'll give it another minute or two if anything comes up. I don't see any other questions.
Well, we can leave it open for another 5 minutes, just in case anyone thinks of
Sure.
anything.
Go back to my Halloween slide. So great. Thank you, Siobhan, for coming. Nick has another question, more of a curiosity. What organizations or groups are ideal for this type of grant to administer statewide?
I would say, I mean, any of the eligible entities, those are, groups that are, eligible. And then we're looking for organizations that have some experience with these populations, have worked with beginning and or socially and economically disadvantaged farmers before, organizations that are experienced in administering grant programs, and organizations that are well partnered in New York State and can provide the support needed to the beginning farmers to successfully execute their grant projects.
Nick says thank you again.
Were you able to see in the chat the web link I put in there? Did that go to everyone?
I got it.
Yes, it did go to everyone. All right. think we're good.
All right, again, if you have questions following this presentation, please feel free to email them to procurement. Let me say this right.
Go back. Yeah, I'm putting
Go back to that slide for a sec. Yep. The procurement info@agriculture.ny.gov.
All right. With that, thank you all very much for attending and have a happy Halloween.
Thank you.